Hey moms, it's Laura Ollinger. Welcome to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast. Because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world. Welcome everybody to today's episode of the Positively Healthy Mom. I'm so excited to bring on my good friend Marquelle Brown. We go way back many years now from our Neuroencoding Institute training. So Marquelle, say hi to everybody.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here with you, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, so happy. That's great. So Marquelle, man, tell us about all your qualifications because you've got quite a few, and then we're going to hone in on just some of those today. So tell us kind of your background.
So I am a nutritionist, functional medicine nutritionist, and I love working with people, helping them to navigate, how to improve their health and wellness, what to choose to eat, and even including fun foods if they want. I call those processed and packaged foods fun foods because we have them at birthdays and social gatherings and holidays. And so it takes some navigating to find some balance and not overdo in that area. I'm also a mom of 6 kids. My oldest is 26. My youngest is 12. I have 5 girls and 1 son. And I'm also a betrayal, trauma, and addiction recovery coach. So, and I'm a brain health licensed trainer and neuroencoding specialist. So I've really done a lot to really focus on the whole system, the whole person, mind, body, spirit, because I think that they're all interconnected. And if we really want to have that full quality of life and the energy that we want, we've really got to look at all of those areas of life.
I completely agree. And I think that's why you and I align so well, because I have the health coach background and the life coach background. And so we bring those together and just talk about, like you said, mind, body, and spirit. But today we are going to talk about all things mom and back to school related and food related. So, man, like, where do we even start with that? Because I think, like, I know our school starts next week, which is very soon, depending on when this episode airs. But we're imminent right now. You guys have a few more weeks till your school starts. And I think what happens as moms is we all start to feel the pressure and the overwhelm with all the emails and the signups and the, the apps for the sports teams and just keeping up with everything. And one of the things that is our biggest kind of job or responsibility, not that it's not also dad's job, it certainly is, but the role tends to fall on mom as the food person in the house and grocery shopping, meal planning, cooking. Again, I love it when my kids help in the kitchen. They're great. They actually all summer long have been doing a lot of their own cooking, which I highly encourage kids to learn early, get in the kitchen, and then to also clean up. That's a little bit more of a struggle, but where should we start with this conversation today as far as just like getting moms ready and prepared for the stress and overwhelm in relation to food?
Yeah, there is a lot to think about. And I think 2 topics to talk about to start with are snacks and dinner time. Because dinner time seems to always fall when you've got to run somebody somewhere or go pick somebody else up. And it's like, okay, what do I get? And I guess I'll start there. So one thing that I like to do, if you have time in the morning, usually I'm preparing something quick for breakfast. A lot of times I do prepare a dinner meal for breakfast, which may sound strange for people. I just like to have some good protein and fats and healthy carbohydrates with vegetables, and whether you use a rice or a pasta or a whole grain bread. It really just gives everybody the energy to start their day and to sustain them throughout the day. So while I'm getting that ready, I will often, if it's going to be a really busy, long day, and I know that dinner time frame is going to be hectic, I will also quickly prepare something in the crock pot. And I just put it in there and turn it on so it's cooking all day. And then if we can sit down and eat as a family, we can. Otherwise, if people are coming and going, then they can prepare their food, just get it out of the crock pot, whatever else that you have in addition, whether it's vegetables or a grain again, that they can actually, put that together really quickly, either grab and go, or they can sit down and eat. Not everybody has to eat at the same time. And again, when I talk about meal prep, I like to think about 1 protein and 1 fat, or a protein or a fat, protein and a fat and a carbohydrate. And so usually things that I'm putting in the crock pot are more like a protein or a soup. Soups you can have, like I like to use red potatoes, celery, carrots, and whether it's chicken, if you're making like a chicken soup, or if you wanted to do more of a taco soup or chili, you can put, your beans and your proteins and meat, and if you like any fats, spices in there, and then turn it on. That's really helpful. And then, of course, you could prepare, I like to prepare either the other vegetables or the grain closer to when everybody is going to be eating. So I'm only doing one portion of the preparation during breakfast. And really, I've gotten down pretty well. I'll either put frozen chicken in there and some veggies or some frozen meat. And then making sure that I'm also putting the spices in, adding the water or the liquid that I need, turn it on, and then I go. So I can do that pretty much in 5 to 10 minutes. And the biggest preparation for that is thinking about it the night before or the day before. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to make this. So that I'm ready to go and mentally prepared, so that all I have to do is, get that ready, and I create the time for that in the morning.
That's awesome. I love that routine. I love those ideas. Okay, so what about snacks?
All right, so snacks. Anybody that has kids, especially little kids, know that if you go somewhere and you don't have snacks, you could run into a meltdown, because those little kids, they're fast metabolizers and they burn a lot of energy. And when they are empty, they are empty. And if you don't have a snack right now, it's going to be sad. So I make it more stressful for you as a mom, and the child is going to be very upset. So if you don't already prepare snacks for the go, it's not that hard. Again, if you can make sure you've got some little finger snacks that the kids can grab. And also, I do like to, again, have that rule, a protein or a fat and the carbohydrates. So one thing that we have discovered is Chomp's beef jerky, if you like to eat meat. And the regular ones are about this long. I don't know, what is that, about 8 inches? And they have something really fun now. They're called chomplings. And they're only about maybe 3 inches long,
Oh,
which
cute.
really, even for myself, is a better snack size than the whole stick of beef jerky.
Yeah.
They're organic, grass-fed. You're not going to have all the preservatives and nitrates, any additives like cornstarch or corn syrup, and other preservatives that can actually be a neurotoxin. We do want to prepare foods and purchase foods that are not going to actually contribute to the kids' anxiety, stress, and so those nutrient-dense foods. Also, trail mix is really great. I know that one thing that really makes it for those trail mixes a lot of times is if you can add a little bit of chocolate. If you like chocolate, it just gives it a little extra oomph. I know goldfish, those are popular for kids, little crackers, and then if you can add some other things into that. Also, if depending on we're going to talk about school-age kids, so they should be able to do grapes. You can, those are pretty easy, grab and go, an apple, carrot sticks. If you have time to prepare ahead, celery with peanut butter or almond butter, and you can do ants on a log. One thing with kids is you always want to make food fun. So sometimes, or sandwiches on the go. I like to make sandwiches talk, or, broccoli or trees. And so just get a little bit creative. I know I have one daughter still. She likes to bite a face in her tortilla and then hold it up. Look at me, Mom.
Yeah.
So if we can keep it fun, that also helps, their snacks and mealtime be fun. So olives are also good. Now we can get pickles in those little to-go pouches, and you've got applesauces and guacamole and chips. I think today it's really easy to get healthy grab-and-go snacks because they have, a lot of the companies have really tried to put together some quick and easy things. So, and again, if you have some leftovers prepared from before that you could also take, that could be a good snack. or something that they could take for their lunch. So really a lot of times it's having some ideas and then thinking ahead. Okay, what do I have on hand? What can I grab quickly? And sometimes if I know the morning's going to be hectic, I will prepare the snacks the night before.
Okay, so that's kind of where I'm wondering with this, because with a busy household, you have tons of kids, I have tons of kids, and they kind of all do their own thing. Teenagers, I don't typically prepare things. I just buy things. I go to Costco, I load up. I go to the grocery store, I load up. And I do try to minimize those processed foods, but what we find is like the things in a package are easiest. And so I think like what you're saying is just to like, I think what I'm hearing is that you're kind of finding a balance where you are doing some fresh stuff. I mean, I personally love to get those celery things that are already cut, or the little mini carrots in the little packages, all the things that are just like mini size that they can grab and go. Cause it's not reality for me to be preparing snacks. Let me just yeah.
And thinking about that too, like those little bags of carrots or celery that are already pre-cut. Same thing with broccoli. You can get that pre-cut, then, kids could even prepare their own. Okay. There are these choices in the fridge of the fresh, and they can get their own Ziploc bag if you use that, and they can put that in. It doesn't take very long to pull off a bunch of grapes, wash it, put it in a little Ziploc, and go. Same thing with an apple. Grab it. If you don't even have time to wash it, you can wash it wherever you're at, and just grab and go. Carrots too. And same thing with those little peanut butter or nut butter containers too that are grab and go, or guacamole. The olives, you can get in packets like that too, or applesauce, pickles, if you like pickles. I know that there's a lot more out there as well that are going to be some healthier snacks. Also remembering that they really are fast metabolizers. They're go, go, go. They are going to need more carbohydrates than, say, us adults. So unless there's like a lot of allergies or sensitivities, I do think some of the crackers, pretzels are going to be, okay to choose for a carbohydrate snack to give them some of that quick energy as well.
Okay. Well, I am gluten-free, and that does rub off on my kids a bit because I don't buy a lot of kind of like that. But so let's go into like the psychology of it, because there's kind of two pieces of it. There's the mom psychology, and then there's the teenager psychology or the kid psychology. We are talking about all ages, but kind of I focus more on teenagers. And it's funny because a lot of my clients, the parents' biggest complaint is my teenager eats like, junk all the time. And as much as the mom wants to influence healthy eating, the teenagers they're already kind of resistant to mom advice in the first place. And then when you like add that element in, there is a lot of resistance. And so what I have talked to my clients about is just how they do hear what you're saying. They might not follow what you're saying, but that doesn't mean that someday they won't come back to it. So I'm like, give them till they're in their 20s. And then they know, oh yeah, mom said eat healthy. And then I do, right? Or it kind of has to come from within. I mean, I know my son who's 15, he's an obsessive healthy eater, like no sugar, no dairy, like he is, because he's an athlete and he cares about eating really healthy. Some of my other kids don't care as much. They eat kind of what, other things. And so I think part of it is A, the individual, but B, what's the motivation behind it? And a lot of times teenagers don't really necessarily have the specific, if they're not a big athlete, they don't have that motivation behind it. But that we still want to make sure we're guiding them, showing them the way, even if they're resisting that and eating lots of junk. So like, what's your kind of take on that?
Yeah. With my own kids, I have learned when they get about 16, that they start questioning, wait, why are we doing this? Why do we eat well? All my other friends don't eat like this. Not all of them. But, they're eating a lot more fast food, processed, sodas. And so I thought that was very interesting with my first two children, because I'm like, okay, we have done this since you were like 4 and 6 years old. So I thought it would have been just an established pattern that they would want to keep going with. And so what I found, even though I had been educating or a little bit going along, that at that age, I really needed to bring in more education. Like, okay, well, why do we eat like this? Well, we aren't sick as often. You don't have as much pain and inflammation. You don't have headaches and joint pain. You're able to work out really hard and recover quicker and faster. You're not getting injuries. Your face and complexion looks better. Your moods are better. You feel, you're not as tired. And so really, a lot of times I will ask them, how do you want to feel? What do you want to be able to do? And if they've eaten quite a bit of junk over a few days or a week and they're like, oh, I don't feel good. I'm like, well, why do you think that might be? Is there anything contributing to that? And usually they'll put together for themselves that, well, I haven't been eating very well at all. So helping them to generate that awareness. And I really do like to emphasize, we have it, eating well. It's an anti-inflammatory diet. You're going to have less inflammation, which means less pain, which means more energy. And your skin is going to be better. Your moods will be better. And also, we don't have to go to the doctor very often unless there's something major. And that's something that I want, And the other thing that I found was that my kids, as they got older, they were discovering things. Did you know this? And I'd be like, yeah, isn't that great? Did you know this and this? And so really celebrating when they are looking things up themselves and allow them to share, because then they're learning. And as we celebrate with them, it's really going to help anchor in that, yeah, I want to eat well. And it really does make a big difference. So the other thing too is those teenagers that are rebelling, food is one thing that they feel like they can control.
Yes.
And
I'm hoping you would go there. Yes.
And that can be really tough, especially when, like, as a nutritionist, I know that there are some pretty severe consequences if you're eating poorly constantly, three times a day, and for snacks as well. If you're doing that here and there once in a while, your body can keep up with that load and those toxins coming in. And you're doing it all the time. It really does burden the system. And I've had to really just take a deep breath and, again, bring an awareness. If somebody has been really sick, what do you think? What do you think you might help? And they'll be like, well, I probably should eat better. And then just love them where they're at. Just love them where they're at. And then bring in, when you've got more cavities, what do you think that's from? Could that be from more of that soda pop and not getting the nutrients that you're needing from those processed foods? And again, just loving them. And hopefully all of those years of eating well at home and preparing meals and snacks, once they get through that, teenage 17 to 20, hopefully they'll come back around and be like, oh. And again, like you said, those that are athletes, that's a real motivating factor, because usually you can tell a huge difference if you're working out really hard, if you're not eating well. You just don't have that motivation and that drive like you normally do, and that endurance to be able to do those sports. And so you'll almost adjust yourself because you want to be at your peak performance level. Also, if somebody isn't feeling very good, they might start investigating, what could I do to improve my health, and start doing some research there. And then other times, kids, they just actually really don't know. And so my mom growing up, she used to say, oh, I read this article and this is supposed to be good for you. We're going to bring more of this in. And I found this recipe and I'm going to bring this in. My grandma used to do that too. They would share health tips all the time back in the day when we had the Reader's Digest. And there were health tips and articles in there. And so any little bits of information that you can just share in passing, I learned this, I'm kind of excited and I thought I'd share with you, and I might try this out and implement some of these things. I think all of that can help pique these teens' interest as they are really striving to go from that kid and stepping into being an adult where they're making their own choices and figuring things out on their own.
Yeah, I like all the things that you said. They were great. And it reminds me of, so my mom, we never really, she never made like a big deal out of things. Like we always had chocolate chip cookies in the house or some dessert options. She loves ice cream, so we always had ice cream in the house. But she never like made a big deal out of it. Like there was almost never a conversation that I can remember that she was trying to tell me what to eat or influence me. But what she did do, and I think it's almost a good like metaphor even for presenting or offering, which is she would just like leave out a cutting board with some like sliced peaches or nectarines or just something kind of cut up. And it's like you're walking through the kitchen, it's kind of right there. It looks really, you kind of just, but it's almost like she was not here, eat this or do this or eat your broccoli, or, it was always just offered, but it was never really discussed. And so I'm not saying don't discuss it, but I'm saying, we don't want to force anything, but like presenting the information or the research. Well, I also did something similar. My son recently, we were having a discussion about dairy. I personally don't do dairy much myself, and I don't buy a lot of dairy. And my son was like, "Mom, we need milk." Da, da. And I said, "Well, it's kind of inflammatory." And he's like, "Well," he kind of didn't believe me. Is basically where he was going with this. I said, "Okay, well, that's fine. We have your annual checkup. Let's go talk to the doctor." She kind of agreed with me. But what I had said was, well, why don't you Google it, do some research on your own and see what you can find. And I wasn't going to dispute if he found something. I would just kind of go with that, whatever he found. So kind of like putting that ball in their court or just offering information that is from a third party, because that way you're taking any emotional charge and saying, oh, well, this is what the researcher found, or this is what the nutritionist said, or this is what your doctor said, right? And so, because anytime it comes from mom, there's chances are it's going to be a little bit more, maybe some pushback.
Yeah.
So let's kind of spend the last part of our conversation back on mom, us, and just that psychology of, it feels like a lot. It feels overwhelming. So I just did do my meal plan for this week. And I cannot handle buying groceries for 4 days or 5 days in a row. It's too much. It's overwhelming. So now I'm like, I'll buy 2 days at a time, right? I live really close to the grocery store, so I don't mind running over there. But in the past, I would literally go every day. I'm like, this is a massive waste of time. I do need to do a better job planning. So I am trying to get better about that. But what is that? Like, what is that from moms where it's just like, oh, I have to do this, right? Like, where does that come from?
Well, I think part of it is that, we do have to eat. My mom used to say, I wish we had edible dishes, or I wish we didn't have to eat. And, now I'm like, okay, I get it, because, you have to go shop for it. Then you have to bring it home and put it away. And then you have to get it out and prepare it. And then you have to cook it. And then you eat it. And then you have to clean up. And then you do it all over again, depending on how many times a day or a week you decide. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I think one of the automatic negative thoughts or intrusive thoughts is, oh, I don't have time. Well, if we are even just thinking ahead, okay, I could make this, and then, we've got the ingredients, it really doesn't take that much more time. Even going through the fast food and the drive-through, that takes time, right? And so I think if we can create some pockets of time to prepare, plan for grocery shopping and preparing our meals, then that's going to be very helpful. For me, I still have a lot of people, living at home. And so for me, I actually prefer to get ingredients and go once a week. And then I can have food and I can be like, okay, I can make this and I can make this. And some of them are shorter meal prepping meals, and some of them might take a little bit longer. And I'm also with you. I get overwhelmed thinking to meal prep for a whole week. That, because when you're feeding a lot of people, that to me is way too overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I don't do that. I've thought about it before and I'm like, whoa, that's just too much. So I just look at the day, breakfast and lunch, we have that down. And then I'm thinking, okay, what could I make for dinner? Even if it's something like spaghetti, and we get gluten-free noodles, which we really like. Also, if you can handle gluten, you can get those, but that's pretty quick and easy. And then you can prepare some veggies on the side, whether it's steamed vegetables, a salad, or if you want fruit for that meal, you could have that. Olives if you want to have with that. There's a bunch of things that you could add to that to make that a well-rounded meal that doesn't take very long. So my meals, I really try to aim for, okay, what could I make in like a half an hour? And usually what I like to do, for me, when we are making a dish with meat in it, I'll put the meat in the pan first, get that started, and then I'll prep the veggies while I'm going, and then add the spices, and then I start either the rice or the pasta, or if we're just going to have some chips on the side, we can do that, or whatever else you want to add to that. And then the meat's cooking because that tends to take the longest, and then I'm chopping vegetables and putting it in, and I put the lid on. And then, I can usually have that dinner finished within 20 to 30 minutes, depending on what it is. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a stir fry or if we're doing tacos, taco salad, like a spaghetti or even a soup. Soups take a little bit longer because you've got to get everything boiling. But again, if I can prep it all, put it in the pot, put the lid on while I'm doing other things, and this cooking while I'm doing other things, and the preparation is only maybe probably more like around 15, 20 minutes. So still, that's not too much time if I have the ingredients on hand.
Right.
One other thing is I think that parents are like, I'm so tired, at the end of the day. And so they've worked hard all day. They've done all the things that they have to do, running kids, taking care of house, bills, work, all the things. And so oftentimes that thought creeps in. I'm so tired. I don't know. Maybe I'll just grab something fast. So crock pot dinners, if you can do that quickly in the morning, it really does not take that long. 5 to 10 minutes, put it in, put the spices in, put the lid on, and then turn it on and ready to go. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I like to do is grab a rotisserie chicken. And that probably takes just as fast to go through a drive-through. Go pick up a rotisserie chicken. If you want to get all the already chopped veggies or a packaged salad or even salad, that takes like 2 minutes to wash. And you've got, some of those loose veggies and whatever else that you want to put with it if you're going to do a grain. And then you could really grab that chicken and a few things there at the grocery in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, come home, put it on the table. And then you've got that ready to go. So, and then you can reuse that rotisserie chicken depending on how many people are eating that. Not reuse it, but the leftovers. So you could have it for the next day for a salad, or you could put it in a soup, or you could put it in wraps, whether that's a lettuce wrap or, you're using a tortilla. And then you've got enough of that protein for at least 1 or 2 other meals, depending on how much is being used the first and second time. So,
yeah. Those are great tips. And I think my takeaway too, mentally, is just that planning the pockets of time. So I do try to do that. Yesterday I had a super busy day and I was going to be out for the evening. So I was leaving my kids home to kind of fend for themselves, but I didn't want them to have to do that. So I prepped something ahead of time. I use the Instapot. I'm a big Instapot girl. Nice. So I got it all done. I think I cooked dinner. I don't remember, but it was like 2:00 yesterday. But that way it was just sitting there ready for them to go so they could help themselves. So I think the biggest takeaway is just like, if you're going to have to do it anyway, you might as well not get so stressed out about it. You might as well say, okay, I'll have 20 minutes there. I'll have 30 minutes there at that part of my day, whether it's morning, afternoon, early, typical, like evening time, whatever that is, but just to know when it's going to happen. So you're taking some of the uncertainty out of it. If you can figure out what you're going to make ahead of time, again, like you said, the night before, what you're doing the next day, take the uncertainty out of it. So the more certainty we can provide psychologically, that feels better to us, that feels less stressful if we have a plan. What I did when I was making that dish yesterday was actually I had to run to the store, get something else, but at least I had everything out on the counter. I had my spices out. I had my onion out. Right. So it's just even psychologically having it right there instead of me having to like fish through and be like, oh, do I have this? Do I have that? Right. So anything we can do to like lower the bar on the difficulty level, which sometimes is just as simple as, It's the equivalent of putting your running shoes by the bed. If you want to run in the morning, make it as easy as possible. So I think kind of like that's what it is as far as getting that done. So, okay, any last, pep talk for moms going back to school? Like, what can we give them as far as just some type of a motivation or encouragement?
Yeah. Well, just know that you can do this. It's a routine. So it's just reestablishing routines. And so give yourself a week or two to get into the school year, and then you'll see what routines you have. Okay, this is a pocket of time where I could prepare this meal, or this is a pocket of time where I can go grocery shopping. These are some snacks that we can have on, and see what your family likes, see what you can try to implement. And also, I just want to briefly talk about fun foods, which
Okay, yeah.
are the processed foods, right? And they're everywhere. That, when I had little kids, was it was a bit of frustration for me because I didn't want them to have it. And then what I learned is when they got a little bit older, I really couldn't control the fun foods that were around them. And so,
Right.
again, I like what you said, not having too much of an emphasis on it, and also um, not making a big deal if they're having them. And
Mm.
because when we do that, then I find that they will sometimes, not always, monitor, not eating too much. And what happened with me was I was like, oh, we don't eat that. That's not good. That's not going to be very healthy for us. That whenever we would go to a social gathering outside of the home, they were eating way too many of the cookies and cakes and candies because, we didn't have it. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to have to rethink this. How many cookies do you think might be okay? Maybe 2 or 3. Do we like totally pile our plate up, or do we just take a few? So helping them, more with like finding some balance. And then again, noticing how they feel after they have that is, I like to say, even and especially if they've gone way overboard, because then they can actually correlate that, okay, maybe that didn't make me feel very good.
Yeah.
And again, if they're reactive to it, they're going to learn really quickly. Yeah, I don't want that because that's really not going to make me feel well. And it's really hard if they aren't reactive to it. And that's where we can come in and be a little bit more intentional with our parenting to help guide them on maybe some portion control. How about let's take one of the smaller plates and you could put a few of those sweets or snacks on there instead of one of the big dinner plates. And then just help give them some guidance. And then too, like I find planning, if they want some sweets, okay, where might we make that for dessert? Or maybe we'll go out and get a special treat so that it gives us something to look forward to. And it's not something that they're going to be eating all day, every day, with every meal and every snack. And then one other tip, there's a study out there that says if you have, 2 servings of fruits or vegetables a day, you're going to feel okay. If you increase it to 4, you're going to feel better. If you increase it to 8 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, there is such a significant boost in your mood and how you feel that you would be able to recognize it within 24 hours, which I think is pretty powerful.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it doesn't take very much to get to, 8 servings. Serving sizes are not actually that big. And so the way that I encourage you to get those into your day is try to include, 3 to 5 different colors of fruits or vegetables in your meals or snacks throughout the day. And then you'll easily get that.
I love that. I would love for you to send me that study later so I can take a look at it because it sounds great.
Yeah.
And you're on that the food colors and the phytonutrients. I remember when I was in my functional medicine health coaching school, they had a graphic for children. And so I taped it up so my kids could see it. And they did get really into it. They were like, ooh, this prevents cancer and this prevents all these things. And so they actually got really excited about kind of learning about it. And so it's been a while. We've moved a couple times. So I was thinking, oh, I should print it, even though they're teenagers, but they still are interested. Like they're very interested in their health both the boys and the girls. And so I thought, oh, I should just print that out again. I'll do the adult version maybe this time. But, they do want to have a say and a part of that, and understanding the connection of what it does for their body and what kind of energy it gives them and what kind of mood that provides and all the different things. And the boys are so into building their muscles. My daughter is too. She's a weightlifter. So she loves anything that's, going to help with that. So awesome. Okay, Marquelle, I think we did it. This was an amazing conversation. Where can people find you going forward?
Yes, thank you. So you can find me at marquellebrown.com. That's MarquelleBrown.com. And I offer some discovery calls if you want to learn more, and feel free to reach out.
That sounds great. Thanks again. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast, because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends.